This podcast is brought to you by WRFL, Radio Free Lexington. Find us online at wrfl.fm. Catch us on your FM radio while you're in Central Kentucky at 88.1 FM all the way to the left. Thank you for listening, and please be sure to subscribe.
Welcome to From the Woods, Kentucky. I'm Lhotka, and I'm here with my co-host, Renee Williams. Now, for today's show, we have Dr. Jim Ringe and I are going to talk about forestry careers. And we're also going to explain our undergraduate forestry program and, things that you can do to prepare for these forestry careers. And then also we're going to hear from a forestry student to give you kind of a sense of the undergraduate forestry program from the student's perspective. And then later on, we'll have Wayne Centers, who's the Director of Student Relations within the UK's College of Agriculture, Food and Environment. And Wayne's going to talk about coming to UK and just kind of some of the general steps for that process. And then finally, we'll have Lori Thomas in, and she's our extension forester to talk about some of the various youth opportunities for our younger people that are interested in forestry and natural resources. So if you know some school-age kids that have an interest in the outdoors, these will be some great programs to show them the world of forestry. Now, as you probably know, our From the Woods Kentucky show has covered many topics around forestry, beginning with episode 1, which was What is Forestry? We've talked about forest health, wildlife, including black bears, bats, turkeys, deer. We've talked to Dr. Price about herpetology with snakes and salamanders. And we've also had our extension foresters and their work with woodland owners. We've even talked to the Urban Forest Initiative, and we've talked to about restoration with Green Forest Works. We've covered topics from watersheds to landscape ecology. And, if you've missed any of these shows, they're all on our website. You can listen to those podcasts. But as you can see from these topics from our shows, forestry covers so many topics. And I'm excited today to talk about the career opportunities in forestry. It's such a diverse field. And if you have an interest in the outdoors and the forested environment, you might want to consider a career in forestry. So the show today is going to talk about the various forestry career options and how to become a forester. And today in studio, we have Dr. Jim Ringe. And Dr. Ringe is a professor of marketing, economics, and wood products in the Department of Forestry and Natural Resources at the University of Kentucky. And he's also our director of undergraduate studies for our forestry program. He's been working with our forestry students and prospective students for years, advising them and telling them about our forestry program. It's a pleasure to have you in studio today, Dr. Ringe.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, as the academic coordinator for our forestry program, I get the opportunity to work with Jim a lot, and I am excited to have him in studio today. So before we get started talking about forestry careers, explain what you do here at UK.
I'm split between teaching and what is called administration in the sense that I'm the director of undergraduate studies. I teach 6 of our undergraduate courses, and as director of undergraduate studies, I do some mundane things like putting together the schedule, but I also work with the students navigating their way through their career so they can get all their ducks in a row for graduation, and I spend a lot of time talking to prospective students and interested students about our program.
Okay, before Dr. Ringe explains forestry careers, Laura, we've done this radio show for a while, and I guess for this one I'm going to call you Dr. Lhotka. Explain a little bit of what you do as an academic coordinator.
Sure, thank you for asking that. Kind of as an academic coordinator, I work with the full life cycle of our students. So working with prospective students as they come in, those that might be interested in, whether they're in elementary school or high school, interested in forestry and natural resources, I talk to them about our program in forestry. And then, once they're here, I work with the current students, teach some classes, and I help them with jobs, resumes, cover letters, networking, kind of getting those professional experiences. So just whatever I can to help our current students succeed, whether it's getting scholarships, getting summer jobs, permanent jobs. So that's kind of my main job, and that's the part I love, is seeing our students get those jobs and be happy in their careers. And then kind of towards the end of that life cycle is working with our alumni. I help, we had a forestry alumni bash last October. We do an alumni picnic. So just kind of interacting with our students as they go out into the forestry profession. So that's something that I like to do.
So what first got you interested into forestry?
I didn't come from an outdoor background. My dad was an English professor. He did not hunt. He did not fish. I think he did all the camping he ever wanted to do in World War II. I joined the Boy Scouts at age 11. I'm an Eagle Scout, and in the 7 years between 11 and 18, I was probably outdoors at least once a month. I had no idea really about forestry, but I knew one thing when I graduated from high school. I wanted a job that would take me outside, and that led me to the forestry program here at UK.
Great. Well, and we hear that a lot. So many people love the outdoors and they want to work out the outdoors, and that draws them into forestry.
So what career opportunities are in forestry?
Oh, there are tons of them. Foresters are qualified to do almost any job that involves assessing, utilizing, protecting, preserving, restoring, or reestablishing forests. And career opportunities are very strong and are likely to remain so as the large post-war baby boom generation retires. As a forestry graduate, you can find employment in both the public and the private sectors of the economy, and also many of our forestry graduates continue their education in graduate school. Public sector jobs are generally those supported by taxpayer funds, and that would include federal agencies such as the U.S. Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the Office of Surface Mining, which covers reforestation opportunities, the Army Corps of Engineers, which is responsible for the shoreline management of many of our artificial lakes, the Department of Defense. Many of our large military bases have large forests on them, and the DoD hires foresters to manage them, as well as state agencies such as divisions of forestry, many of which are involved in landowner assistance, like the Kentucky Division of Forestry, divisions of reclamation, and a variety of environmental protection divisions. In the private sector, we include the wood-using industries, land management companies, timber investment management organizations known as TIMOs, as well as a wide variety of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, that have forestry and environmental interests. There are also local, national, and international opportunities. Forests are of major importance to the entire world, and that's not going to decline anytime soon. As you may suspect, forestry is a career that has numerous international opportunities as well as national and local opportunities. So the job opportunities for forestry graduates include forester, state and federal forester, land managers, urban foresters. Trees as a benefit to cityscapes and living conditions are becoming really important now. Consulting foresters, wildland firefighter, utility forester. These are the guys women that manage the right-of-ways that large power lines pass through. Arborist, forest biologist, GIS specialist, county extension agent, environmental scientist, water quality specialist, researcher, naturalist, and a whole lot more.
Yeah, great. Thank you for providing us that background on, some career opportunities. And, if you have an interest in any of these careers or working in the forested system and want to become a forester, it's important to have a professional degree in forestry. And here at the University of Kentucky, we have a Bachelor of Science in Forestry. The forestry major is a professional degree program, and it's the only one in Kentucky that's accredited by the Society of American Foresters. And, our forestry students are trained to grow, manage, and protect these healthy forested ecosystems. Our forestry classes are designed to give students hands-on field experiences using some of the latest technology when learning about land management principles and practices. We also have, during the spring semester of their junior year, something called the Springfield Semester, and this is a semester-long kind of field-oriented immersion into the practice and application of forestry, wildlife, and natural resource management. We have a lot of students that are interested in wildlife, and they have the option to pursue a new minor that we have. It's called the minor in wildlife biology and management. So we have several options for students.
A lot of this that Jim was talking about earlier, they may not know exactly what natural resource profession they want to go into or what classes they should take. Right. So you two are here to help them.
Yeah, and anytime anybody has any questions, our contact information will be on this page, but you can also look at our department's website and learn more about our program. All of our contact information is there as well. And we're happy to meet with students, prospective students, anybody just kind of wanting to explore this avenue and see if this is right for them.
Even if they're not sure. They're just trying to figure out what they want to do.
Where they need to go, exactly.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the classes that you teach in the forestry program.
I teach a bunch of them, which is really neat because I get to know all of our students from the time they show up to the time they get out of here. At the freshman level, I teach Forestry 100, Forests and Forestry. This is a basic UK core course, and it's simply a nice overview of what forestry is. And I got into forestry with an idea of what it was, and I'm still amazed to this day, 40 some odd years later, how wide a profession it really is. So we cover a lot of that in Forestry 100. At the sophomore level, I teach Forestry 200, which is basics of geospatial technology, which is a fancy word for how do you navigate in the world and not get lost. We cover the real basics that were essentially what I learned as a student: maps, compasses, aerial photos, but cover some things that didn't exist when I was in school, like GPS devices, which navigate via satellites, and GIS, which is a whole computer-based mapping information system, which is really becoming pens and paper for our graduates. Everybody needs to be able to know how to do that. Also at the sophomore level, I cover forest products and wood science. I teach students how wood is put together, how we utilize it, how to identify it. That's actually something I actually did a lot of work in earlier in life. For the juniors, I teach Forestry 320, forestry valuation, and economics. Whether or not economics governs our decision, everybody wants to know what something costs, and we have to have some idea, what we're putting in as far as our resources go, and we cover that in that course. I spend a week with our field semester in forest operations and utilization, where we do hands-on work, assessing wood products, taking them apart, making them, seeing how much we've used and how much we've thrown away in making these products, and then relating that back to wood quality and tree quality and how we can produce better trees in the forest. And finally, with the seniors, I co-teach with our silviculturalist something called Integrated Forest Resource Management. This is a course where there is no class time. The students get divided into groups and get given a chunk of land. They have to go out and assess what's on that land. They meet with the landowner, and they have to come up with a management plan for that landowner to follow. There are no right answers. There are no wrong answers. It's an extremely open-ended, hands-on class. It's the last practical thing we can give them before we send them out the door.
Yeah. Now, that capstone course is a great experience for them. That's good. One thing I was wondering, if with our program being an accredited program by the Society of American Foresters, and as we mentioned, we have very specific courses that our students take. And I was wondering if you could just walk them through what 4 years might look like for them. I know you've described several of the courses that you teach, but I was just wondering if you could just kind of give them a sense what 4 years would look like if they are coming in as a freshman, and then where they fit in if maybe they're transferring in.
Like any freshman year, you spend your time doing a lot of the UK core courses, which is the general education requirements that anybody who majors in anything from aardvarks to zebras has to take. We want to keep you in our building some, so you'll be taking a basic Forestry 100 course. We have some community and professional development course where you start to meet people who are out in the profession, and you take a course in basic firefighting, which is a great way to fill a summer with a good summer employment. So we want students to get that early in the game. And you'll also be taking your basic writing courses, basic chemistry, math, that sort of thing. The sophomore year is kind of the applied sciences we talked about, where you're starting to learn something about mapping, how to identify trees, how to measure trees, something about policy. You'll learn your wood in your sophomore year, you learn GIS in your sophomore year, and you learn something about soils. At this point, you've got all of the basic biology and chemistry and science to really start learning how to do forestry. So the junior year is really focused on the field skills that make a forester. You'll learn how to identify trees when there aren't any leaves on them. You'll get your valuation in economics, ecology, silviculture, and some wildlife management. That spring of your junior year, as Dr. Lhotka mentioned, is the field semester. There is no course meetings like you're used to. The courses are dictated by what week you're in. The first half of the semester, you're based in Lexington. The last half of the semester, you're based at Robinson Forest, which is 10,000 acres the university owns in Breathitt County. We have dining facilities up there. We have cabins, so you're really in a resident camp. And to get to the classroom, you walk out the door, literally. We also take you to West Kentucky. Kentucky is really very, very different from one end to the other. And we take you down to see some of the forests in North Carolina. That's probably education like you've never experienced before. In your senior year, you start learning the ins and outs of management. Now, you've got the basics, you've got all the field skills. How do you put all this together and make this work in a world that has economic constraints, that has policy constraints, where humans cannot agree on what the best thing to do? That's where you really learn the art at this point of forestry. So in the fall of your year, you get a lot of management. You learn human dimensions. You learn something about entomology. You'll learn how to take the silviculture and the economics and the ecology and make decisions in forest management. And you learned how all of that controls the quantity and quality of water coming out of the forest through hydrology. In your last year, you're really fairly free. You have conservation biology, which deals with global extinction and global wildlife concerns, and you have that integrated forest resource management course that we talked about, and that's one of those courses, the class time is Tuesday. All day Tuesday.
Good. Well, thank you for going through that. That's very helpful. And we have copies of our curriculum online, so if you want to kind of walk through where you fit in, and if you're a freshman or a transfer student, you can kind of take a look at that.
So if you're a transfer student, what year could you not actually just come in and not have a whole bunch of extra time you have to make up?
The best time to transfer would be in the fall of your sophomore year. And the simple reason for that is, unfortunately, there's a blessing and a curse to this program. We said we had small classes and big classrooms. Our average class is 10 to 20 students. We're very small. You will not get lost, and you will get to know your professors, and you'll get to know your fellow students. That means that unlike large courses like writing or calculus or anything like that, our courses meet one time in one semester, and that's it. So you kind of got to take them a little bit in order. That's the curse of being small. The benefit of being small is you're with the same people all the way through. You develop some really tight bonds in a very large university. It's sort of like having your own class of people you get very, very close to. We also have some constraints on the fact that our trees drop their leaves during the fall, and so some things have to be taught initially in the fall semester, and we can't do anything about it. But if you transferred in with all of your basics done, all of your core work done, we can get you out of here in 3 years. And if you're thinking about that, I would suggest you contact us. We've done this a lot, and we can guide you with our, we have some programs that show compatibility of courses at other institutions. We can guide you to take the right things that UK will accept for the courses we want, and so that you can come in, and all you really have to do is do your forestry courses, and you're good to go. We're more than happy to work with you on that.
Yep, no, that's good. Thank you. So again, we have classes such as FOR 100, Forest and Forestry, as well as our FOR 200, which is Basics of Geospatial Technology. And these are available to all UK students. So if there's some students out there that think they might be interested, these are some great courses to expose them to forestry and see what the courses are like, and they're even part of our UK core for that. So those are some options for our students here.
So they don't have to be enrolled in forestry to take these classes.
Absolutely not.
Right.
We'd love to have them.
Yeah.
A lot of our courses you don't have to be a forestry major for. Sometimes it will say, sometimes it won't. If you just got a passion for wood, you can take our wood products class.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we have some great courses out there. You might take a look at those. And one thing that we stress with our students, it's not just taking the classes that's important. We want them to get experience. We want them to have we want them to build their resume while they're in our program.
That's important.
Yeah, and so one thing that we have, Dr. Ringe mentioned early on, is a course called Forest Fire. It's FOR 255, and that's offered in the spring of the student's first year in the program. And through this course, they receive federal wildland firefighter type 2 training. So if a student has a wildland fire interest, they can be a part of our UK Firecats program. And what that is they work as employees of the Kentucky Division of Forestry as emergency firefighters. They're on call during weekends during the fire season, which is kind of the fall and springtime. And they fight wildland fires in southeast Kentucky. And so we partner with the U.S. Forest Service for the training part of that, and then with the Kentucky Division of Forestry for the employment. So we really appreciate our partners for this. But, if you're interested in wildland fire, becoming a UK fire cat, that's a great way to get some more experience. That's during the academic year. So in addition to that experience during the academic year, we want our students to go out there and work in the summers in forestry and natural resources, to help build their resume and gain additional experience outside their classes. And another thing we encourage with these kind of summer jobs is to figure out what you like, what you don't like. It's 2 to 3 month window, and if that's not where you want to go, great, try something again the next summer. But we really want our students to get out there and experience some of those things. And one thing that we also have on our website, and we'll put this link on our podcast page, is forestry jobs. So if you're wondering what types of forestry jobs out there, we have several links to job boards. We also have jobs that people send to me, and I post those as well, so people can kind of get a sense of what's out there for that. So
okay, well, we've covered a lot of information today about forestry careers and the forestry program here at UK. And so what are 1 or 2 takeaway items that you two would like to give our listeners?
You get out of school at maybe 22, 23 years old, and you work until you're 65. That's 42, 43 years. Make sure that you spend those 40 years doing something you love. That's really important. I have never regretted going into forestry. I started our program here as an undergraduate in the fall of 1973, and it's flown by. So if you're not exactly happy in what you're doing, if you know you want to be outside, if you want an outdoor job that's going to take you places and leave you with a sense that you've accomplished something and made a big difference, or you're just interested in forestry, come talk to us. We're more than happy to talk to you. Would love to talk to you. I love talking about this, so I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Great.
All right. Well, Dr. Ringe, thank you so much for joining us today. And up next, we're going to hear from a forestry student about her experience in our forestry program.
You've been listening to From the Woods, Kentucky with co-hosts Renee and Laura. We'll be right back after this short break.
Welcome back to From the Woods, Kentucky. Let's get back to our interview. So now we have Maya Collins-Patterson in studio with us, and she's a senior in the UK Forestry Program, and we appreciate her coming in today. We just heard from Dr. Ringe about forestry careers and the UK Undergraduate Forestry Program, and now Maya's here to give us kind of the student perspective on our program, and we're going to hear about why she chose forestry, some of her activities while she was in the program, and then her career plans. So I guess to get started, tell us what got you interested in forestry.
Well, I've always had a love for the outdoors, and when I got to UK, I really didn't know if that's the career that I wanted to go in. I started my freshman year in the College of Undergraduate Studies, so I didn't choose a major right away. I took a couple of classes in the forestry program. One was with Dr. Cox. It was a wildlife course. I think it was like 101 or 102, and I absolutely loved it. And so
Got you hooked, huh?
Yes, absolutely. So that spring semester, I switched into the forestry program. But I think it was my love of the outdoors. And I will say that I thought that I loved the outdoors before, but forestry has made me appreciate it a lot more, taught me the mechanisms that are involved in the forest and how to manage them in a way that will be conducive to them lasting forever. So it's really given me much more of an appreciation for the woods.
So prior to coming to forestry, you were involved with the radio station that we're listening to right now, WRFL. So what did you do for the station?
Absolutely. So I trained in the summer of 2015. So it was before I started at UK. I've lived in Lexington for a while. I've been listening to WRFL for a long time as well, and I knew that I wanted to be involved. So I got involved then. I was a DJ for an entire year. Then I became the office director. I was the music director. I was the programming director, and I was also the general manager. Yeah, so I was very involved with WRFL throughout my time in forestry. This last year, I'm not currently involved, but I did a lot of stuff. I mean, I was a DJ through that entire time, and
Well, your last year is a very trying time to have to do other things as well.
Exactly.
And,
Very busy.
So,
Yes.
Maya was actually the one that encouraged us to start the show and had come to us and said, hey, we need a forestry show. So we're thankful for you for getting us involved in it.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, I can combine my two loves that you can.
Right.
And yeah, I'm so glad that it's gone well so far and that I'm able to come on the show today.
Yeah,
so.
we appreciate that.
And communication is such a big part in forestry, getting the word out to the public. So it's a good tie, and it's a good career path for you if you should choose that. So just kind of getting back to the classes that you've taken in forestry, tell us what it's like in those classes, how they went, and what maybe was your favorite.
So I'm actually able to look at all of the classes that I've taken so far. A couple that really stand out to me. I mean, dendrology was great. It was the study of trees. It was being able to learn about the trees around me. I tell this to my friends all the time that I don't know what I thought the woods looked like before. I took that class because I was like, what did I think that trees looked like before? Mm-hmm. So that was one of my favorites that I was able to take. A couple of others. I'm in environmental policy right now, which I really enjoy. Getting to learn about the history of policy in the United States and what that meant for forestry and for the environment. Silviculture, that's a really big part of forestry and the forestry profession in general. I mean, it really is a core part because it has to deal with forest management. Mm-hmm. I really loved forest ecology. I mean, I can't really think of a class where I'm like, I really didn't like it. I'm not so good at GIS stuff really, but I enjoy learning about it, and it's a wonderful tool. I obviously love the forest fire class because that's been a big part of my college career, and so that's a super applicable class right now. I know that wildland fires are very much in the media right now. And so those were probably my favorite classes. But, there are other core classes that are interwoven with required forestry classes. And so, you're not really, except for the junior spring semester, you're really never just all in, which is, it's nice to have the balance, I think, with any major. So
a key part of the forestry program is the Springfield semester that you just mentioned, mm-hmm. and that's in your junior year. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts of the Springfield semester.
With any class, you go twice a week or 3 times a week for an hour and 15 minutes. So, you spend 3 hours a week on one class. The junior spring field semester, I would describe it as, everything that we've learned so far, every class that we've taken, we get to go out into the field and practice what we've learned. And I think that the field semester is really, in my mind, where everything kind of clicks. Mm-hmm. So, you spend a lot of time in the classroom. It's probably 9 hours, 4 days a week. Some of the time you're in Robinson Forest, which I'm sure that you all have talked about before, mm-hmm. the forest in eastern Kentucky that UK owns.
Mm-hmm. We even did a show on Robinson Forest.
Oh, yeah. good, yeah. I love it out there. It's beautiful. But, some time is spent out there, some time is spent, we go to different logging operations or sawmills or different wood products facilities. And mm-hmm. so, we really get the hands-on version of forestry because, a lot of it you have to study in the classroom and, it's based on being outside and, mm-hmm. and going to these different places. So that really is where everything kind of comes together, and it's probably my favorite part of the entire forestry program. I love my classmates. I was able to hang out with them all the time, mm-hmm. and work with them and learn with them, and so I think that it's a very important part of the forestry program here because of everything coming together. So
mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're out and about all day for the whole
yes.
semester, so all
yes.
15 weeks of that. So in addition to the coursework, another thing that we want our students to do is get involved with forestry professionals. And I know that you've received a travel scholarship to attend the National Society of American Foresters meeting. You also attended the Kentucky, Tennessee Society of American Foresters meeting. And I'm just curious, how were those meetings and how did they help you?
Absolutely. So, I think that a lot of people think of forestry as this, you go out in the woods by yourself and you get to just hang out there all day. But a lot of forestry is connecting with other people. And so both of these meetings, the KTSAF meeting and the National SAF meeting that I went to in Madison, were the other side of forestry, the part where you're able to connect with people, either professionals, or I was able to talk with other students either about forestry where they are, or, talk shop about classes that we were taking and what were the similarities and differences within that. And I think that coupled with the professionalism classes that we take in the forestry program are super important, because I feel like with other colleges, it's very, like you have to talk to people, and I don't think that people think of forestry as having to communicate professionally with others. And so having these kinds of programs and, scholarships to be able to go and practice and talk to professionals and students was very important and an important part of my time with the forestry program at UK. And so
you mentioned fire earlier, and you've been involved with the UK Fire Cats program. And so tell our listeners a little bit about that program and how it's helped you.
Absolutely. So I took Forestry 255, which is the forest fire class. I heard about fire cats through that course. Through that class at UK, you are red card certified, a type 2, become a type 2 wildland firefighter. And with that, you are able to go out and fight fires, and one way to do that is with the Fire Cats program. It's in partnership with the Kentucky Division of Forestry, and it employs UK students to go fight fires on the weekends. And so I've been fortunate enough to be part of that. I was part of that last year, and pretty much you go out and fight fires on the weekends with KDF, pretty much on call. Fire and fire ecology is super important to the forests of Kentucky. And so being able to learn that in the class, and then, having the opportunity to be able to work with the Kentucky Division of Forestry in a professional setting, while also being a student fighting fires, was very helpful to me. And I worked with the U.S. Forest Service this summer. I was on a hand crew in Tonasket, Washington. So that's middle north. It was about 30 minutes away from Canada. So it was, a lot of people think of Washington as very green, and that was definitely not where where I was. It was more sagebrush, and there were pine forests it was on the Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest. But, I would not have been able to do that if it not had been for becoming a Type 2 wildland firefighter at UK and working with fire cats during the school year. So.
And of course, they give you training. They just don't put you out there and
exactly. No, yeah, absolutely. The course is going through different modules, and then you have a field day where you get to practice digging line, which is how you stop the fire, and different hose lays and everything that encompasses wildland firefighting. You're able to fit into that day and then become certified. So yes, it is not boom boom and you're out on the fire line. It is it's definitely a process. So
tell us what it was like out in Washington. I mean, what was your work schedule like, and give us a sense of fighting fires out west.
Absolutely. So during the summer, we had a set schedule. It was, at one point, it was Monday to Friday. It was 8 to 4:30, and then it changed later in the summer as the heat index increased and fire activity became more prevalent. Then it was 9:30 to 6. So that changed a little bit, but being a hand crew in wildland firefighting, I mean, we had our set schedule, but we hardly ever kept to it, just because
fires don't just turn off.
Exactly. So if there was a fire, we would, there's a cutoff time that you have to commit to because of the of laws. So, you have to have 8 hours off, but if it took working 16 hours, then it took working 16 hours. I had a couple of opportunities to go away from our ranger station and fight fires elsewhere. So fought a couple of fires on the Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest that were a couple of days away. So we would spike out, we would camp and eat MREs, which was an experience in and of itself. I'd never been pushed in that direction, but it was a wonderful learning experience. I got to fight a fire in Oregon. We were called onto that. It was the South Umpqua Complex. It was a series of lightning strikes during a very dry time that caused a pretty big fire. So that was in Southern Oregon. I think it was like 2 hours south of Portland. And so, I was able to do that. But, I mean, working on a hand crew is not just firefighting. That is our main focus, but we did a lot of other stuff on the forest. We would do projects. At one point while I was there was a bunch of flooding, and so we were bagging sandbags. It's kind of like they put us wherever we're needed. I did that for a couple of weeks. We a lot of time that we weren't fighting fires, we were thinning. We were reading a silviculture plan that their forest silviculturalist wrote up, and we were following it and thinning. And so it was so interesting to be able to go out to Washington State and see forestry practices that I've been learning for the last 3 years practiced. And, I was able to see that during the Springfield semester, but to be able to see that in a professional setting was very interesting. And, it was another thing where everything clicked. I was very curious about process and why they were doing it and what was it for. And the species composition out there was completely different. So I got to learn about, there are probably about 5 tree species in in the forest that I was, as opposed to Kentucky, where it's a lot more. So I was able to learn about that and different wildlife that are around there. I saw a moose, I saw a bear, I saw eagles. The wildlife composition out there is completely different. It wasn't my job to write up a silviculture plan. That wasn't my main job to thin, but I was able to be introduced to that aspect of what went on. At the Tonasket Ranger Station, I was a wildland firefighter, but I was a lot more more than that. Very utility-oriented. I was able to work some on the engine. It was really wherever we were needed.
So tell us what your career plans are when you graduate. I know you're graduating this year, and congratulations on that. So
thank you so much. Yeah, so I kind of went through a process of, oh my God, I'm about to graduate. What am I going to do? Yeah, I think that's what a lot of college students go through this time of year if you're about to graduate. But I took a class this past fall semester. It was Human Dimensions of Forestry and Natural Resources. And, we talked about a lot of different communication and the interpersonal workings of different types of forestry in that course. And one of the weeks we talked about international forestry. One of my thoughts before I graduate was like, oh man, I really don't want to go into a job and then stay there for the rest of my life. I want to do a lot of different things. I think that I've learned about a lot of different components and aspects of forestry that I feel like I can't just choose one. And so I don't want to, get a great job with the U.S. Forest Service or the National Park Service or a private company and then, stay there forever. And so I was like, oh man, what if I did something with international forestry? Like, what if I worked in a country in Europe or something? And so I started to think about my options for positions outside of the United States. And then I landed with the Peace Corps. And I was like, oh man, I wonder if there's if there's something forestry related, and there absolutely is. And so I applied for a position with the Peace Corps. It's a Forestry Natural Resources Specialist in Senegal, which is a country in West Africa, and I was accepted to the position. So I will be going there in September.
That's great.
Yeah, it'll be it's a 27-month service. I'm not exactly sure what town I'll be working in yet. That will be decided when I arrive, and I train in the capital of Dakar for 3 months. For the next 2 years, I'm booked.
That's great.
After that, I really don't know what kind of experiences I'll have out there. So I really don't want to think of, what I want to do with the complete rest of my life. But I'm so excited for what I'll be doing out there. I know it's a lot of forest management, mangrove restoration, there's orchard management. There's live fences that need to be planted. There's just an array of forestry involvement with these villages and communities in Senegal. And so it's kind of like, I really don't know, but I have a general sense, but I know that when I'm done, I'll be a completely different person, and I'll probably want to continue on some completely different career path than what I think that I want right now. But for 2 years, I'll be in Senegal.
That's great.
And that's going to be totally different too, a different country.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully the 3 months I'll be able to learn about all the everything. But it was really the forestry that got me interested in wildland fire and put me on the path to be able to work out in Washington this summer. It was forestry that put me on the path of working with the Peace Corps for the next couple of years, that through the coursework and learning about the different components of forests and of forestry, that I was able to find my passions and my loves. So...
Oh, that's great. And we wish you all the best. I know that you've got a great path ahead of you, and so we wish you the best for that.
You'll have to come back and let us know what you ended up doing.
Yeah, so any closing thoughts for our listeners who might be interested in majoring in forestry or who knows somebody that might be interested in forestry?
There's the website you can go to and learn more, but everyone in the department is so welcoming and is so kind. And so I would highly encourage you to walk through the doors of Thomas Poe Cooper and to speak with Laura. She's our academic coordinator, or really anyone. Everyone is so open and welcoming. All of my professors have really been fantastic. And, it's small classes. It's very intimate in that kind of way. But for anyone, I would say to do it because, I've loved it so much. I talk it up all the time. So
Well, we appreciate that. And thank you so much for coming in today and talking about your experience here in the program. And we wish you all the best.
So, good luck.
Thank you.
You've been listening to From the Woods, Kentucky with co-hosts Renee and Laura. We'll be right back after this short break.
Welcome back to From the Woods, Kentucky. Let's get back to our interview. All right, so far we've heard from Dr. Jim Ringe about forestry careers in the forestry major here at UK, and we've also just heard from Maya Collins-Patterson, and she gave us a student perspective on the forestry program. If we have people that are interested in forestry and want to come to UK, we've now brought in Wayne Centers, and he's here to talk about the process of becoming a student at UK. Wayne is the Director of Student Relations with the University of Kentucky College of Agriculture, Food and Environment, and it's a pleasure to have you in studio today to come talk about UK.
Thank you all for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good, well, thank you. So we'll go ahead and get started. And tell us about the College of Agriculture, Food and Environment.
College of Ag, Food and Environment at UK, I would describe it as a very dynamic, hands-on learning community. The way I describe it when I'm on the road talking to future students would be, if you like to eat food, if you like to wear clothes, be outside, or if you care about the condition of the world that we are inheriting, we most likely have a program for you to study in our college. We have 17 different degree options ranging from science and agricultural-based programs to business and social science options to what we would call environmental impact programs. Altogether, our college community consists of about 2,400 undergraduate students. And some quick math, knowing the number of majors that we have, shows you that the footprints of our majors are relatively small compared to others at the university. All of our students in this college, no matter what program they're in, are required to complete a component of experiential learning in order to graduate. And that includes internships, that includes undergraduate research, education abroad, or unique field experiences like the field immersion opportunity in the Forestry Program. Lastly, I think our unique variety of programs, our hands-on emphasis, the number of students, and the supportive environment that we have really makes for a tight-knit community here. Some even refer to our college atmosphere as more like a family.
Yeah, it definitely is like a family. And if you're interested in, you're not sure if you're interested in forestry or just, different aspects, the college has a lot of great programs. So be sure to check those out if you're still unsure about what you want to do. Tell us a little bit about some of the deadlines or time frames that people should be aware of as they begin thinking about college.
Really appreciate that question because that's really critical, especially if you're a high school senior listening to this right now. In terms of timeline, if you're a high school senior, the first week of August is when you can expect to apply to the University of Kentucky. And this can be done through a variety of ways. Pick your favorite. You can do that through UK's website, which is www.uky.edu. We're seeing a high interest in applying through an online application service like the Common Application or a service called Coalition. If If you're a senior, your favorite deadline is December 1st. At the University of Kentucky, that's considered early action and simply completing your admissions application by December 1. And if you meet certain standardized test score or GPA criteria, you're automatically put in the queue of consideration for merit-based and even some non-academic awards. Ultimately, there's a February 15th regular admissions deadline if you want to come to UK in the following fall. And for every student applying that's a prospective first-year student, you have a May 1st confirmation date. It's a little bit different if you're a transfer student. So if you're transferring into UK, meaning you've taken a course or courses after you've graduated high school in a full fall or spring term, your favorite deadline if you're applying for a fall semester would be July 1. But remember, if you're interested in transfer-oriented scholarships, you want to complete that application by June 15th. It's really important in any application process to remember that early is always better, especially for our transfer students having to submit the transcripts and other materials from your previous institutions.
Okay.
So if people need to offset the cost of college, what kind of financial aid options are there?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that. That's something that our college is really sensitive to. We know that the majority of our students are receiving some form of financial aid. I believe that it all starts with something called the FAFSA, and I think that's the university's mindset as well. It stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. As we make financial aid decisions, particularly around the area of need, outside of merit, those decisions go hand in hand with the FAFSA. FAFSA is a tedious application, but it's the end-all, be-all measure to determine eligibility for valuable items like grants, loans, or even federal work study. Again, our mindset is that every student at the university should complete the FAFSA. On top of that, of course, I mentioned with the admissions application, you have a certain amount of scholarship opportunities that come with your application. Many of those and some of the more lucrative opportunities do come, which is completing your admissions application early for early action track. What's really unique about our college, Ag, Food, and Environment offers additional opportunities for students to offset the cost of education through first year and transfer scholarships. The only requirements to access our separate and additional scholarship opportunities would be admission to UK in any of our programs. And the best way to check those out would be our website, www.uky.edu/grow.
Okay. Well,
So I was wondering, when should they fill out this? Should they fill that out in the December deadline, the early deadline? Is that the best time for them to do that?
So currently, our first year awards also match the December 1st early action deadline. So if you are a prospective student in the senior year, another reason why December 1st is so important, and to remember that that application is a separate application compared to the one that you'll complete for admissions. Our transfer students have a similar process, but their application deadline for our college opportunity is April 1st.
and those are two applications are available on your website.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So tell me, what are some of the unique things about the college?
Well, one of the concepts that we mentioned earlier is that of family. I think that can't be more true than our agricultural residential college. The University of Kentucky, for folks that have been through Lexington or visited our campus in the last 5 or 6 years, have seen there's been no shortage of orange cones and yellow tape. A big part of our physical transformation has been our residence halls. And our college's primary relationship with residence life is the Ag LLP, or Living Learning Program. It is a great way for first-year students to live in an intentional, supportive community where you can receive programming where you live, and even some neat opportunities like visiting our various farms and land holdings, which usually means more than just a tour of the horticultural unit, but sometimes a bonfire, sometimes passing the football, bonding with your fellow residents. Our students in the LLP also take a connected course, which is a general education requirement at the university, Gen 100, where we're kind of creating some same pageness around what is agriculture, food, and environment. We know statistically as well, our students in the LLP program persist at a higher rate to graduation, and they have higher GPAs in their freshman year compared to students that simply live on campus and are not in an LLP. So that's something really resonating with family, really consistent with starting off on the right foot as a first-year student. I can't emphasize the LLP and especially our agriculture residential college. That's open to every student in our college, forestry, to animal sciences, to equine, to human nutrition or merchandising. All are invited to
And I think
apply.
starting off on the right foot in the first year is key.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so if people are interested or want to learn more, I know the university has some tours and the college as well. Can you tell a little bit about how to go about signing up for a tour or registering for that?
So for future Wildcats listening and their families, I cannot underscore enough the importance of going on a tour of the college or colleges that you're interested in. It's so important to feel comfortable where you are thinking about studying, to walk on that sidewalk, to eat the food, to eavesdrop on some conversations that students are having. I think that's all really valuable. UK has a fabulous visitor center that's located in our brand new student center, and it gives prospective students and their families the opportunity to experience a walking tour of campus as well as an admission session that dives into a lot of details about the process that we've just described. We encourage any student that's doing that main campus tour to also consider and add on a college-specific visit. That's a part of my position. Something that we specialize in on my team is creating that personal opportunity for a student to get to know our college and their major. We do visits year-round. As long as the University of Kentucky is open, we are open. We prefer Monday or Friday visit dates with 2 weeks' notice, but if you give us enough notice and if there's circumstances, we're in the business of trying to say yes. Our visit includes time with me, a tour of our buildings that you would experience as a student in our programs, time with a student ambassador, as well as time with an academic program rep like Laura to talk a little bit more about the nuance of the program that you're interested in. I would say 80% or more of the time, that's a one-on-one experience with us and you and your family if you're a student. So we really take that very seriously, and I hope that everyone will visit.
It would be very helpful to get the questions answered that you have, where you might want to not ask in a group setting. You would do that with one-on-one.
Yeah. And so where do they go to register to find out more information on the college tour?
Great. So it all starts with uky.edu. The University of Kentucky's main page. Right at the very top, you can see the visit link, which is important for that main campus experience. And again, we heavily encourage the college-specific opportunity as well. Going to www.uky.edu/grow is where you can find me on the web and click information about visiting student opportunities.
Okay.
Well, thank you for this information. We greatly appreciate it. And what would be one or two takeaway items that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I think that hands-on that we're all doing together, we're approaching a mission together, there's just a really strong bond that I think helps our students and their success, their persistence. So that's one thing that I would underscore as important here. Our size is, I think, a really important part of our recipe. Students, I don't think, get lost in the cracks around here. And just the importance of doing your research, checking out our website, doing the tour. I think once you check that out on the web, it's a great way to lead to other opportunities to investigate more, and I think you'll be pleased.
Thank you, Wayne. That's great information on coming to UK. We appreciate that. Okay, so we've been talking about forestry careers and how to major in forestry, applying to UK and those kind of things. And right now we have in studio Lori Thomas, and she's going to tell you a little bit about ways to get involved in forestry and natural resources if you're still in high school and middle school. So this is if you're not quite ready for college, but you're still interested in this, she's got some great information.
Yeah, we still have something for them.
Exactly. And this is a good time, that middle school and high school, you're interested in the outdoors, you think you're interested in natural resources. We have several programs, and the first one I'll mention is the Kentucky Forest Leadership Program, and it's designed for high school students who you think you're interested in natural resources, not exactly sure what, or environmental sciences. And it's a great week-long program. It's a residential program, and it's usually that first week in June is when it happens, and it's down on Lake Cumberland. And it gives the high school students an opportunity to learn in depth, be immersed in natural resources, learn measurement, management of those, conservation, preservation, all the while working with other natural resource professionals. In addition to that, they're going to get to explore some possible career options and, college, if I'm going to go to school, what kind of degrees might I think about? So it's a great week-long program. And like I said, it usually happens that first week of June, and you can find out more information about the Kentucky Forest Leadership Program on our sites and whatnot. But it is it's a good program and have a lot of students who come back. Usually we'll have sometimes repeats and stuff. So, but that's a really good one for our high school students. Another program more for the middle school students is a 4-H program, and this is a statewide program as well, and it's the Natural Resources Environmental Science Academy. And if your middle school students, 6th through 8th grade, thinks they're interested in sciences, they like being outdoors, this is a great program for them. It's a 3-year program. To find out more information about it, you just go to your county extension office, and almost all of our counties host it. They all have information about it, Information is also up on our 4-H website as well, but it is a 3-year immersive program in natural resources. So you'll explore all the different possibilities with water, forestry, wildlife, entomology. The students get to do a little bit of that over the course of their middle school years. So another good program. Another one I wanted to mention, and this one happens through 4-H as well, and that's our 4-H Forestry Program. And that's designed for the typical 4-H ages, which is 9 to 18. The youth can participate in forestry field days that we have all across the state. And it's just a one-day event, but you get to go out, you get to learn basics of tree identification, how to measure a tree, and you'll get to learn all of this from other resource professionals. We work with the Kentucky Division of Forestry on that one as a collaborative effort. And you get to learn about careers as well. One other last one I wanted to mention is the Envirothon Program. And that's run through your high schools. So if your student is in high school, I know we have several Envirothon teams that come out of Fayette County here, out of the high schools. Very in-depth. It's a competition-based thing, but they study all about natural resources, and then they go to a competition. And if they win state, you'll get to go to the national competition as well. So there's a lot of opportunities if you're youth, or if you all are interested in natural resources, or you think you are, or you just like being outdoors and you want to know more about it. Getting involved with things like the Kentucky Forest Leadership Program, 4-H Forestry, the 4-H Natural Resources Environmental Science Academy, and Envirothon are great ways to figure out, is this what I want to do when I go to college?
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you so much for that information. And we'll have all those websites on our From the Woods Kentucky website, so we'll list all of those. So,
well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today. And we have a new show schedule for spring 2019. You can listen to us live on WRFL 88.1 FM on Mondays from 11 a.m. to noon. And if you miss the Monday shows, you can listen to our podcasts on our website at www.fromthewoodsky.org.
Hey there. If you're enjoying this podcast from WRFL Lexington, you may enjoy our live radio stream at WRFL.FM, and of course via radio at 88.1 FM in the central Kentucky area. We have a wide variety of programs you're sure to enjoy. Just go to WRFL.FM/schedule and see what programs appeal most to you. Thanks again for listening to this podcast from WRFL Lexington.